At a glamorous Manhattan gala meant to honor her architectural brilliance, Katherine Thompson is publicly betrayed by her sister, disowned by her father, and stripped of the legacy she helped build. But in the ruins of humiliation, Katherine doesn't crumble, she rises. With quiet fury and razor-sharp strategy, she launches her empire, forcing her way back into the world that cast her aside. And when the power shifts, she offers the ultimate payback, not in rage, but in acquisition. This is the story of betrayal, resilience, and a woman who turned exile into empire. After a decade in exile from her judgmental, status-obsessed family, Katherine makes a quiet yet explosive return to the luxury hotel empire she secretly built, with her own family trying to bar her from attending her father's birthday celebration, held in her hotel. The doorman didn't even glance at me. He didn't need to. I'd trained him myself. Well, trained the man who trained him. But I wasn't here as the CEO today. I was here as a daughter turned stranger. Move. Aside, Katherine, Madeline hissed, her perfectly manicured hand on the brass door handle of the Grand Azure. This is a private event, I noticed. I tilted my chin, smoothing the silk of my jet-black dress. It's also Dad's birthday. And it's reserved for family, she spat, her fake Valentino heels wobbling slightly on the polished marble step. I am family. Her eyes flashed. Not since you walked out 10 years ago to play waitress in greasy diners. If only she knew. Behind her, the glittering glass doors of the Grand Azure gleamed like a mirage. Just a few more steps and I'd be home. In a twisted way. I wasn't here to rub success in their faces. I was here to end the story they wrote for me. A shadow flickered behind the doors. Then my mother appeared. She wore her judgment like jewelry, sparkling and suffocating. You were told? Not to come, she said sharply. Don't make a scene. I held up a white envelope. It's a gift for Dad. What is it? Madeline scoffed. A gift card to Olive Garden. If only the ink hadn't still been drying on the villa's deed. I'd rather not say, I murmured. It's personal. Oh, please, she rolled her eyes. This isn't about you. It's about Dad. He deserves to be surrounded by people who matter. Successful people. I smiled tightly. Like Charles? My brother-in-law stepped out at that moment, adjusting his tie, and froze when he saw me. Katherine? She was just leaving, Madeline chirped. Actually, I began, but my mother cut me off. You've embarrassed yourself enough. Your father will hear you couldn't make it. I was about to turn, about to leave it all behind again, when the doors opened behind them. James, my head of security. Madam Coe, he said, loud enough for the entire entrance to hear. Your table is ready. Chef Michel is awaiting your approval of the tasting menu. Silence. James met my eyes. Would you like to come in? I looked at Madeline, now ghost pale. I believe my family was explaining why I'm not allowed into my hotel. James turned to her slowly. Miss Katherine is the founder and CEO of Azure Hospitality Group. She owns this hotel and the other 34 Grand Azure properties. The silence turned to suffocating tension. Charles dropped his phone. Madeline dropped her jaw. I walked through the entrance as if through a portal, out of their fiction and into my reality. Staff straightened. Guests turned. The front desk manager gave a respectful nod. Good evening, Miss Katherine, she said. The executive suite is prepared for the birthday celebration. My mother was still at the door, clutching the idea of control like a broken purse strap. You coming? I asked, just as the private elevator doors opened. I believe you're on my guest list tonight. The morning after the party dawned clear and bright, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse office at the Grand Azure. I sipped espresso from a bone china cup, watching the city come, alive below me. The silence was welcome, a stark contrast to the cacophony of gasps, whispers, and shattered assumptions from last night's celebration. On my desk sat a neat stack of business proposals, some from those very same distinguished guests, who had barely glanced at me before the truth came out. Funny how quickly respect blooms when wealth is confirmed. I set the espresso down and opened my laptop. One email stood out. Subject, lunch, from Madeline. I almost laughed. No apology, no explanation, just lunch. As if nothing had happened. I ignored it. Instead, I focused on the acquisition of Charles's bank. The deal was moving faster than anticipated, thanks to his clueless comments the night before. When your soon-to-be-acquired executive spouse mocks the person signing the buyout papers, it doesn't inspire much confidence in your institution. I made a note to call my legal team. Moments later, James entered with his usual quiet efficiency. Your sister and mother are in the executive lounge. They've requested a meeting. I raised an eyebrow. Requested, not demanded? He gave a rare, small smile. They're being civil. Schedule it. 30 minutes, and tell Sarah to bring tea. The expensive kind. The executive lounge was serene when I walked in, the scent of jasmine tea drifting through the air. My mother stood up the moment she saw me. Madeline remained seated, her designer sunglasses pushed up like a crown she was no longer sure she deserved. Katherine, my mother began, her voice more brittle than usual. I owe you an apology. I sat down opposite them and said nothing. Let them talk. I didn't know, of course, she continued. Had I known what you'd built, what you've accomplished, I would have been proud. And that's exactly the problem, I said quietly. You only value success when it comes with headlines and dollar signs. Madeline stirred, her voice shaky. You made us feel like fools last night. No, I said. You revealed yourselves as fools. I simply gave the truth a stage. Madeline flushed. I get it, okay? You're the billionaire. You win. This was never about winning, I replied. It was about respect, something I was never afforded. But you didn't even tell us. You could have explained, shared it. We're family. You mean the family that sent me a text telling me not to come to my own father's party because I'd embarrass you? My mother cleared her throat. About that, we may have acted rashly. You acted exactly how you've always acted, I said. Dismissive, superficial, cruel. I stood up. You're welcome in my life, but only on my terms now. No more belittling. No more comparisons to Madeline. And no more pretending I'm someone to be ashamed of. Madeline finally met my eyes. You were right about the Valentino dress. It was a knockoff. I smiled faintly. I know. By noon, the news had hit the press. Mystery CEO behind Azure Hospitality. Revealed Katherine Thompson, once shunned by family, now powerhouse of luxury empire. Phones rang nonstop. My PR team worked overtime. Reporters begged for exclusives. I agreed to one televised interview, but only one. That night, I found myself back in the penthouse, barefoot, wine in hand, watching the skyline. The doorbell chimed. It was Dad. He looked older than he had last night. Humbled, human. He held the envelope I'd given him. I read the deed, he said quietly. It's beautiful. The villa. I thought you'd like it, I replied. I didn't. Come to ask for anything, he added. I came to say thank you, and I'm sorry. I gestured for him to come in. Sit. We'll talk. And we did, for the first time in years, like two adults. Not a father judging a daughter or a daughter defending her worth. Just two people trying to bridge a chasm they had both widened. Madeline was still reeling. Her engagement had crumbled once Charles realized the family firm's future hung by a thread. Their lease had been delayed, and the resort membership she wanted had been quietly denied. Actions, not words, have always been my preferred language. My mother had joined a charity board, probably to reclaim some social status. But at least she'd stopped referring to my career as a phase. As for me, I finalized the acquisition of Charles's bank. I promoted James to COO, and I booked a flight to Tuscany, where the villa awaited. My father would meet me there. He wanted to see it with his own eyes. A small step, but perhaps the first of many. Because building a legacy isn't just about money. It's about standing tall when no one believes in you, and one day, watching them look up. Tuscany was breathtaking in early spring. The villa I'd gifted my father rested on a sun-kissed hillside just outside Siena, wrapped in vineyards and lavender fields. It was everything our family had once pretended to have: charm, history, grace. But this time, it was real. And it was mine. Dad arrived 2 days after I settled in, stepping out of a matte black car with cautious eyes and a familiar stiffness in his spine. I met him at the arched stone entrance. "I can't believe you did it," he said, scanning the tiled roofs and manicured olive trees. "You built a kingdom," he added, "without any of us." "I had to," I said, leading him inside. "You left me no choice." We spent the day walking the grounds, sipping wine, talking about small things: art, weather, architecture. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. That night, by the crackling fireplace, he turned to me and asked something I never expected. "Would you ever consider coming back to the family company?" I looked at him. Looked. The same man who'd once said I was too fragile for leadership. The man who'd pulled me from the board because I refused to date one of his business partner's sons. Now here he was, asking for my help. I leaned forward, voice steady. "Why? Because your reputation's bruised after the party? Or because investors are nervous?" He didn't flinch. "Both. And because you're better than all of us, Katherine." That night made it painfully clear. I let silence hang between us before answering. "I won't come back. But I'll buy it." His eyes widened. "You'd buy Thompson & Vale?" "Yes," I said, swirling the wine in my glass. "And rebuild it properly. Without the arrogance, without the nepotism, without sacrificing daughters for sons." Dad stared into the fire. "Madeline won't like that." I'm not concerned with what Madeline likes anymore. Back in New York, Madeline was unraveling. Her image had taken a hit, and unlike me, she had no foundation to stand on, no skills, no company, just borrowed prestige and daddy's connections. When news of my offer to buy the family firm leaked, she snapped, "You think you can just take everything?" She screamed at me over brunch. "The name, the company, the spotlight?" "No," I said calmly, slicing my avocado toast. "I earned it. You were handed it, and you dropped it." She stood up, furious, and stormed out. I didn't stop her. I'd stopped chasing validation the moment I bought my first hotel tower. The deal closed. Thompson & Vale was now part of my growing portfolio. I restructured it, removed the deadweight, and brought in new leadership. My father remained on as a ceremonial board member, but the real power rested with me. At the first shareholder meeting under my direction, I stood at the podium in a sleek black suit, my hair pulled back, a single emerald pin on my lapel, my late grandmother's. I looked out over the audience of mostly gray-haired men, many of whom had once dismissed me. Now they hung on my every word. "I'm not here to inherit a legacy," I said. "I'm here to reinvent it." Applause thundered through the room. Later that night, back at the Grand Azure penthouse, I stood alone on the balcony overlooking Manhattan. The city pulsed beneath me, ruthless, glittering, always watching. James joined me quietly, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "To Katherine Thompson," he said, raising his glass. "CEO, architect, avenger." I clinked my glass with his. "No," I said with a smile. "Just Katherine, and that's finally enough."